Hello and welcome. This is day three, the final day of the North American Continental Chess Association Open 2025. Um, and yeah, had the final two games today. Um, Went into it on 3.5 points out of five. Um, Winning the last two games yesterday, so I felt like um, I was playing pretty well. Um, and yeah, not anything, I was certainly missing some things, but not, hadn't really made a really stupid mistake since the second game on day one. So yeah, I was feeling good about playing, just a bit tired. And kind of luckily the first opponent that I had in the morning round. It was a quick game. It was a little more than an hour. It was a small child, not as small as the kid from the first day, but he was clearly restless. Not as restless as there was a tiny child two boards down from me who was literally he could not he was doing the little kid at a restaurant thing where he was climbing all over the chair. He was getting up and he was putting his hands on the table and like jumping up and down while his opponent was thinking, like while it was his opponent's turn, which I mean, and he didn't seem to complain about it. So I don't know, I think I would not have been incredibly happy about that. It was fairly distracting even to me. um But yeah, so not that level of bouncing off the walls, but he was just playing too fast, and just made a pretty simple blunder. He played it in like a second. I very clearly would have seen it if he had taken more time, and then he resigned, 6 or 7 moves later. So not that interesting of a game, but kind of a good break for me because I had two pretty long games yesterday. Um, And yeah, I was going into the final round on then would it be 4.5 out of six? Um, and looking at, getting 5.5 out of seven could potentially be good enough to place in the top 10. It kind of depends on obviously, what the other scores are. But there's significant prize money if you win the higher sections. This section, I don't remember what the top prize is, but you know, I would be getting something like $200 for placing in the top 10. Um, so little something extra to play for, and of course it's Vegas, so there has to be money on the line. And yeah, I played this game. This one was uh past 4 hours, and it was one of the most kind of aesthetically pleasing games that I've ever played. It was uh, something like what in chess circles is called a brilliancy, which in other sports is more usually would be called like a classic or something. Um, at high level tournaments, usually there is a brilliancy prize, which is given to the game. It's given to both participants of the game. That is basically the best aesthetically, the most exciting, the most interesting. Um, and typically, what it requires is, somebody who is on the attack, who has the initiative but needs to prove it, has the advantage but needs to prove it, and the defender um, also defending, playing all of the best defensive resources and moves. um, because otherwise you're not forcing the attacker to actually show all the creativity and you know it's the same as other sports. It's not that interesting if it's just a blowout. It has to be close and high level, and both people kind of pushing each other to playing at their best. And I think that this game really was that. It was very exciting. It was very intense. It was very aesthetically uh, pleasing. um, so yeah, I'm gonna jump into that now. Um, let's see. So yeah, as the previous games were at the Black Pieces, I'm playing what the opening book we'll call the Pyrrhic Defense or Pierce Defense. Um, but it's a King's Indian basically. I mean, it transposes into a King's Indian, which is what this setup would be called when D4 is played first. Um, so this is all quite normal. Um, and here there is a very silly engine line, probably something that people have prepared because it's still in the opening where you can play the seemingly impossible move E5, which is covered by three pieces. But there's a crazy line that's there. I never even considered. I mean, E5 is what you want to play eventually here, um, but I never considered that that was a realistic possibility here because you only have two supports. So instead, I play C5, which is not the best move, but um, it's the other pawn break that you can play in this position. And when you do, you're kind of hoping, to me, and I think this is also just theoretically correct. The two best responses are either counterattacking with E5 or closing the center with D5. Playing D takes C5 is not very good. Um, and this was the first point in this game where I had a little bit of a positional advantage. Um, but it's very subtle. I mean, the reason is basically, this knight is well positioned. It's, on this outpost defended by this pawn. And I've taken, he's lost a D pawn. I've lost a C pawn. Generally speaking, you want to keep your center pawns if possible. Um, so I was happy to see that. Um, And then now I can play e5, which is the other nice thing about this trade. Obviously, if they play e5 or if they play d5, um, this is not possible. If they play d5, there's Papasan. Um, but now I can play e5 because you can't take this with either of these pieces. I'll just take your piece. Um, So instead, bishop g5, and I've got a very nice center here. Far from winning, but you know, I've definitely equalized, which if you're playing black pieces is what you want out of the opening. Um, here, yeah, bishop e6. Um, yeah, just kind of an old development move. I mean, the other one that you would play is this. Um, Queen d2, probably looking for this idea, removing this defender. Um, and here is where I was putting together my kind of middle game idea. Um, in the middle game, okay, you've got your pieces out, you've got your pawns sort of set up, and you have to come up with, what's my plan? Um, and here my thought was, okay, I have this half open C file. I can bring the queen here pretty safely, and I can pressure what looked to me to be the main weaknesses of the white position, which is this pawn and this knight. Um, this pawn is undefended. The knight is defended by the pawn and the queen, but you don't want your queen to be tied down in defense. So if I can sort of make him tie the queen down in defense, that's good. And, what you would really love to see here is something like b3, because that weakens the knight further. That opens up, if you can get this diagonal clear, you're controlling the entire game diagonal. Um, that is definitely a weakening move. He instead starts to show his defensive prowess with a3, which is a very nice move. Um, the idea is that if you just ignore this threat, say, you play something like this, then I can just come in here and you try to, push me back here, but I can just hang out here and this is defended. I'm putting pressure here, and you can play chase the queen for a little bit, but at the end of the day, I can just get my queen back, and you've just lost a pawn. Um, so you don't want to do that. Um, Instead, a3, and now, of course, if you do this, you can't retreat back here. Um, so yeah, so here, I'm continuing with my plan. I'm putting the rook on this semi-open file. I am pressuring this in the long term, and I'm always looking at, if I get a free move here, I'm always looking at when's the right time to potentially take this bishop. Um, and now you have to be careful. You can't retake with the queen because now, again, I'm infiltrating. You can, well, you know, you can take this, but this is much better for black. Um, you're up what it did. So yeah, you're at least, yeah. I guess my evaluation of this was that it's better for black. It may be you need to be more, yeah. So I mean, you can do this, um, and yeah, I think once the dust settles, it's better for black. If all these pieces were gone, this would be probably unclear because this outside pass pawn is nice, but you also have pass pawn of your own. I think it would be better for white because the kings are already over here. But anyway, so I mean, I'm looking at stuff like that. Um, when's the opportune moment to take the bishop? Um, and here he kind of surprised me by taking f6, and I realized, okay, yeah, that's kind of a clever move, right? It's removing the pressure on the pawn. It's enabling you to move the knight and the bishop in the future. Um, it's not an unambiguously good move for the position. The thing is, this bishop is going to hang out here for a while, and it's just going to prevent any kind of counterplay. Well, it won't prevent this, but um, if the knight can't come in here, the queen on its own can't do anything. Um, so yeah, this ended up being. I understood the idea with it, but it ended up, I think, being positionally kind of a boon for me. Um, Here, when Bishop E2, which again I thought like, yeah, that's clever. He's avoiding any of these ideas. Um, and yeah, this whole game was kind of me having these slight or larger positional advantages and just trying to figure out how to convert them and never quite being able to because he was just very, very resilient with his defenses. Um, here, I think you actually can take this. Oh yeah. Here there is a filthy engine line, which is, you'd think this is bad for exactly the same reason, right? Like the queen is just trapped here. It can't go anywhere. Um, but no, you can play knight b3, um, and an absolutely insane move. And the idea is, okay, if you trade the queens, you also trade the knights, and yeah, you're up. Uh, I think you're up upon here. Yeah, you're up upon. Your pieces are more active. You're doing great. Um, and yeah, if you try to get the queen out, now you grab the knight. You're completely winning. Um, yeah, that's crazy. I never would have seen knight b3 in a million years. Um, instead, yeah, I felt like this was a bit of a mistake in the game. I brought my rook over here. My thought was, okay, want to push this. I don't see any direct way of um, attacking on the queen side right now, so I'm just going to bring my rook to a more active square. But this, I think, was a little bit too slow. This allows him to get counterplay, starting with b4. Um, and here I have to pull the knight back. Now the knight's kind of just getting in the way, right? It's blocking the rook from defending. It's blocking the bishop from repositioning. The bishop is in the way of where the knight would ideally want to reposition. So it's just a little awkward. It's not it's not anything crazy bad, but I did feel like that this rook FDA was not quite right. Um, he then played knight b5, which, um, looking at it with the engine later, I realize is just a mistake. This is kind of a move order subtlety. To me, I was looking at this and I was thinking, again, yeah, he's getting initiative, right? He's attacking this pawn. I am kind of on my back foot. I have to defend this. And in reality, no, you don't. Because this theme of the knight getting trapped, right? That's really what I'm kind of one of the things that I'm trying to do all game, is just immediately achievable here. Here you uh, if you move it back, I think you just double up and you can't defend this knight. It's sort of one of the core problems of this position for white is you just can't get anything else to defend the knight on this square. Um, and if you go for this, which seems like it's a free pawn, now you bring the rook in here to defend or to add a second attacker, and the knight is just can't go anywhere. It's dead. Um, it can yeah, I can go here, but yeah. Um, So I missed that in the game. I thought, okay, I have to defend this with the second piece. Um, and I played rook c6. Um, Still feeling okay about the position. It's not quite as dominating as it was previously, but um, yeah, I'm looking to double up here and put more pressure here. Maybe if the knight comes back, put more pressure here. Um, Rook ED1 again. I was like, man, he just keeps finding ways to uh to defend and sort of counterattack here. But I do have Bishop E7, and now you kind of don't have anything else that you can throw at this pawn. Which is, I mean, it totally makes sense to target this. This is the main weakness of my position. Um, but here played Rook AC1, which I don't think does very much. I get it. It's trying to do this, but I think it's you don't have to play that yet. And if you don't have to play such a passive move, like you should try to play something more active. Here, the real killer idea for white, which I did identify in the game, although a bit too late, is pushing the H pawn and basically because the queen is very close to being trapped here, with the knight covering here, right? It can't, if you can get the pawn down here, you can kind of force it over here and then have a discovered attack with the bishop. The queen's a bit vulnerable, um, but Yeah, so here, for example, right here, what I was really worried about is a4. Um, or actually, sorry, not here, but here, a4, because you can respond to a6 with a5. And now, yeah, now the queen's trapped. um, so if I saw a4 here on move 18, you can no longer do this. You have to get the queen out somehow. Um, but yeah, he played rook ac1, which allows me to play a6, kick the knight out, and then play again, just back to my idea of just putting pressure down the c file. Um, he went knight a4, which again doesn't really do. I mean, it kind of just helps me. You kind of have to avoid these attacks that just help the opponent develop or help the opponent, get their move their pieces to better squares. Like here, I kind of already want the queen to go to queens to c7, so putting the knight on the edge of the board like this. I mean, there's limited options at the end of the day. You have to get the knight out because of this persistent problem of being unable to defend it. Um, and you don't want to play knight a2. In the game, I was kind of more concerned about knight d5, which is I think more active. Um, you have this idea of pushing the a pawn again. Um, well, yeah, I guess you actually can't do that. So maybe this is just winning with the responsive rook a3 because, yeah, I don't think you can hold on to all three of these pawns. Um, but anyway, so in any case, he played knight a4, queen c7, and then knight e1, and this was another one of these moments where I was like, knight e1. I mean, I was just not looking at that at all, but it's a very clever defensive move. I mean, I can no longer hit this. It's going to be difficult in the long term to target this pawn because, you know, even if I have enough attackers, if I'm taking it with the rook and then taking it with the knight, um, you know, I'm I'm losing the rook for the knight. Whenever you can defend it with a piece of lesser value, it's a more valuable defender. Um, so I was like, wow, okay, yeah, this is a really he just keeps finding ways to hold the whole position together. Here I do have b5 though, which is nice, which then kicks the knight back. Again, you can't go here, so you have to go here. And this is just like here I had to just take a step back and be like, I mean, this is the kind of position you dream about having. Like, even if you don't play a lot of chess, like this is not. You cannot have everything here. This is just terrible for the white pieces. It's just like a completely positionally dominating. Um, it's completely positionally dominating for black. Um, but you still have to figure out how to convert this, right? I mean, that's the thing with this kind of stubborn defense is, okay, so it looks very silly, but how do you break through here? And I felt like this was a good idea, basically saying like, okay, well, this is still a target. This is still sitting out here, and you've kind of given up on defending it. So my plan in general was to remove this and just push these pawns forward. And I kind of thought, he's not going to give me um, an easy infiltration move. So I just have to slowly push these pawns forward. Um, and eventually I'm going to be able to undermine this. Or the pawns protecting the king. Um, he played bishop b3 defending, capture capture. Here, I got lucky here because in I was in a little bit of time trouble and I had not correctly calculated that after this exchange, the rook is hanging. But luckily, I have rook c3, which just takes care of that problem and actually puts the rook on an even better square. Um, Here, I think, yeah, I mean, I was looking at this. Um, yeah, I think here, um, I was just like, well, you shouldn't take this, right? I mean, this pawn is doing such a good job preventing the knight from doing anything. Um, you should just continue with the plan. I wanted to reroute the knight here in order to support the advance of the pawns. And if he does that, sure. It doesn't really help him. But instead, yeah, I played rook a1, defending the pawns, perfectly logical. I continue here. Um, Here the engine says, well, so here, here I thought I was being very clever. Here I thought, okay, I actually can't play this yet because there's this um there's this concept in chess called interposition, um, where you are putting your piece in between the two other pieces so that this no longer defends this. Um, and I thought, ooh, yeah, this isn't great. I can't really take with either this or this, because this is hanging. And if I take with this, then sure, I have two pieces for the rook, but I kind of lost this idea of attacking down the c file. Um, and it wasn't really clear to me what to do here. I think I may also have thought for some reason that this pawn is falling, although it isn't. Um, but yeah, analyzing it after, I was like, oh, this is completely fine. There's nothing to worry about here. In fact, I mean, usually getting two pieces for the rook is um, you would prefer to get the two pieces. Um, but yeah, in the moment I kind of saw like, you know what, I can just pull the rook back. And this whole game I was just thinking like, do not rush. You know, this is a really good defender. Um, just take your time, slowly improve the position, and eventually there'll be a breakthrough. And it felt like this maintains this pressure. There's nothing you can really do to you can't go back here. There's nothing you can really do to prevent it, and it just keeps black or keeps white in this bind. Um, but yeah, not the best move by a long shot. Um, Here he played, and I should mention that for a while, since maybe move like 20 or so, um, how he has played every move is slamming his little booklet shut, playing the move and hitting the clock and going. So he was not doing a very good job. I mean, anybody knows that this position is miserable to play for white, but he was clearly having a bad time. I just felt like it was very like, yeah, bud, I know, I get it. It's hard to it's hard to play these positions. Um, yeah, he plays Queen H6, which doesn't really do anything. Um, like I said ages ago, Queen can't do anything on her own out here. This maybe could look scary. Like if you did something like this, then you know you could end up in this kind of situation. But I mean, I think even this is like, what do you? There's not really anything here. Um, all of these are defended, um, and you've lost the bishop. um, so you had better have an attack that works in response. But again, kind of playing like conservatively, I felt like okay, I don't want to give him any opportunity for counterplay. So I was happy to come up with again interposition, right? This disrupts this idea of being able to attack on this pawn, and the pawn is supported by the knight. And this is a move that I wanted to play anyways for my plan of kind of advancing these pawns up. He played bishop f1, which, yeah, I mean, I think probably bishop e2 is slightly better, but um, there are some variations here where we're looking at back rank mate, and having the bishop there is better than those. Um, I continue with d5, uh, queen d2. Yeah, there were a couple of these kind of shuffling moves back and forth, trying to decide whether to use the queen offensively or defensively. I still cannot take this um, because of this, and then yeah, I mean, you know, just to show, um, and then something like this. This is maybe winning for white or for black rather. You have the pass pawn. Um, yeah, you have, but you are down an exchange, and it's unclear. So yeah, you can't really go for this, especially when you have such a dominating position. I mean, again, I was looking at this and just like, I mean, this knight can't move. It's pinned down defending this pawn. This knight cannot move literally anywhere. This pawn cannot move, otherwise it'll immediately be taken. This pawn can move, but it does nothing. This rook can move. The rooks can move, but it doesn't do anything. Like, and the bishop is also. I mean, the bishop has one move. So this is just like can't move here, can't move here, can't go out here. Um, this is just like white is just suffocating here, which is exactly the kind of thing you want to. Is exactly the kind of position that you want to produce. Um, but it's still not trivially winning. You're still equal in material. You still, have had a stronger position for a while now, but there's still no breakthrough. And here I was quite happy. Here I don't know if you can actually clear all of these at once. Um, Here I came up with a very simple idea, which was I'm going to go here, go here. I'm going to pressure this. Um, and if, so, just to give an example, if you do something like this, right, then, well, yeah, so I think in the game, uh, yeah, yeah. So this was actually, I think, the move that I expected because it is at least somewhat active. It's counterattacking this, but um, here yeah, so the basic idea is if you do something like this and then you defend the knight, now I'm coming in here, I'm dealing with this pesky knight finally and enabling an attack here, and I mean you just can't hold on to everything, and I'm finally kind of breaking through here. And you have this. Um, so that was the idea. Um, and he played this, as I said, kind of a move that I was expecting, but also not that accurate of a move, um, because you have a nice um, check here. You just throw in, uh, only legal move is h1, and now finally I've at least won a pawn for all of this. Um, and I still have this idea, I still have this. So it's looking like there's finally something concrete coming out of this. I'm also still not doing great on time. This is, you run out of your initial hour and a half after 40 minutes. Um, and I think I had about like a little less than 20 minutes here, which is, um, ideally you want to have a little more than 2 minutes per move, um, especially when things are still pretty complex, like in this position. Um, and here, I think you just got tired of being, positionally strangled to death. um, and played f4, which yeah is not good. I mean, it gets rid of this pawn controlling this knight, but yeah, the thing is like once these pawns go, the king is just completely wide open, and once the king is open, all sorts of tactics are going to be available. Um, and here he didn't even retake, which was very surprising. He played uh, knight d3 instead, attacking the bishop. Um, I think here the idea being that it's better for him to give up the rook for the bishop rather than giving up a whole knight, which is true. But the problem is that, I can just take the third of these pawns, and all of a sudden there's no protection for the king, um, which is very bad. Um, Now, finally, I'm thinking like, okay, this is now I've got a clear material advantage. It's still very tricky. We're still far from trivially winning, but we're at the point where I'm very confident that it is clearly winning. Like there's no way that this is anything but like completely winning for black. Um, so I played knight e4 here, which was happy with because after all this stuff, the disadvantage is that white has a little bit of pressure on this pawn, but I can just neutralize this and counterattack the queen. Um, and he traded here, which is great. Anytime you're trading in an endgame where you're ahead, whenever you're ahead, you want to trade as much material as possible. But yeah, I don't think there's really a good alternative to that. Um, there's still a little bit of shenanigans here. Knight e5 is, if you're given some free moves, and especially if you abandon the second rank, um, the idea is, in wishful thinking, and I guess the bishop also has to be also has to go away, but the hope is that you're able to coordinate the knight and the queen to harass the king. Um, it's a distant hope because I mean these three files are so controlled by black, but it's a reasonable idea. When you're down this much material, you do have to kind of go for trying to check the king, trying to uh, get find a perpetual check or find a tactic where you're forking the king and some other piece. Um, Here, I think that the best move is actually just capturing this, chucking the rook and just saying like I'm not afraid of this at all. My queen's here. Um, like you got nothing. But I still didn't want to give up. I mean, this material advantage having been so hard won, I didn't really want to give back the rook for a knight and a pawn quite yet. Um, so I just played rook d6, getting out of the way of the knight. Um, Queen e3 attacks the pawn. I think that that's the idea here. Um, there's not really anything else that it does. I guess that the queen, leaves somehow, but it's this rank, but it's not really going to do that anytime, not on this turn anyway. Um, and here I was very pleased to observe that I can actually just ignore this attack on the pawn because it is tactically defended. Right here, queen is pinned to the king. The only option is to lose the queen, and it's obviously to be avoided. So this pawn, although it looks like it's undefended, is actually completely untouchable. And I think for that reason, he plays knight g2. So now this capture, of course, is possible because if I go here, you could just move the queen out of the way. Um, I went with rook f5, trying to get the rook over here where it can harass the king and also attacking the knight. Knight g4. This was another place where I felt like I don't think he played the ideal move. Um, I was more concerned with this, kind of lining up over here, and then after this check, this, and then it's a little bit tricky to figure out. Um, this is this this. Where's the this? Oh, sorry. So if we go into um, this variation and say I play something like this, this is always kind of hanging around. Um, it's obviously completely fine. Again, one of these things where if you have the engine, you have the board, you can sort of play out. You're like, okay, this is fine, but uh, on the board in the moment, especially, this is literally move 39 and 40, so I have very, very little time on the clock. I'm trying to get my 40th move in, and then I get an additional half hour. So I was relieved to see this because it's very simple. You can just play this check, um, and then you can't move the king because then you lose the knight. So you have to cover up here, and and I'm quite happy here because now this knight is just pinned, and the king is kind of stuck back here. Um, Here I finally, after some 30 moves of looking at C2, I finally get to take this pawn. Um, and yeah, it's certainly completely winning, but you have to uh there's still a lot of pieces on the board, right? And we're going into maybe the fourth hour here, so it's definitely like things are tense. And I think it might have been in this position where he offered me a draw, which was like I don't know what and he did it innocently. He's just like drop. It's just like no, bud, no, this is not that is not you got to play this out. If you can stalemate trap me, then then that's great. Then you've earned the draw, but like you gotta earn the draw from here, bud. um, and here there's a very nice idea actually. Uh, this looks scary because you're attacking here. It's protected. You don't want to have to do something like this and then worry about getting checked all over the place. Um, but you don't have to do that. This is a very nice forcing move. Um, Forced to take this. Of course, you can block, but then you lose the rook for nothing. So it forces an exchange of rooks, and you get a check in here. He plays blocking with the knight. Oh, I should also back up here and say, looking at this with the engine afterwards, there's actually a mate in two here. So if you want to pause and look for it, you can. I obviously did not find it, but it's very nice. It is Rook D1, because there is no stopping the queen and the rook teaming up on this square. No matter what you do, if you want to block or if you want to take, doesn't matter. Um, in the game, I was so focused on this queen moving vertically, as I had kind of been focused all day, that I completely missed this idea. Um, but this ends up working just fine. The block is the most solid defensive move, so of course he plays it. um, and here, I go here. You, of course, cannot take this because it's pinned. And my idea is very simple. I'm going to go here or here, and then I'm going to do this. He plays 91, so I can no longer play this. Um, but I play this, and I think, okay, I'm forcing a queen trade. This knight is pinned. Um, you know, I'm just winning here. I'm just going to move the king out. I'm going to push this pawn, and I'm good. But again, he found a ridiculous defensive move, in my opinion. A kind of ridiculous looking defensive move. Queen G1. Um, so now there is no longer a mate here. Here had some extra time and I thought about it and I actually found the top engine move, which is nice. I mean, not that there's too much difference between the different winning moves here, but Bishop D5, uh, with the threat being that I'm going to move this on the next turn and then I'm going to have every piece in his position totally immobilized. This is pinned, this is pinned, this cannot move because it is defending this. Um, and pretty much no matter what's crazy about this, one of these things that yeah just made this game so ridiculous is you're allowing a triple fork, um, forking everything, um, but it doesn't matter because you can just go here. Importantly, you do not want to do this because then you lose. Well, is it doesn't really matter that much. But I mean, it's cleaner to play. Uh, it's cleaner to play this. Uh, either so if you do this, forcing this exchange. Um, yeah, that is actually. I guess that is yeah, that's less of an exchange. I didn't calculate out all the way to exchanging all pieces here. I just kind of looked at like, okay, these are pretty much the only moves that are possible in the position, and all of them lead to some sort of uh, forcing line where either the knight has to come back or they trade the queen. Um, in the game you played knight e3, so I played queen f3 check. He comes back here, still refusing to trade the queen. um, and now e3, and we get to like position number two of just like the ridiculous positional dominance here. This is just crazy. I've never had this in a game. And again, every piece is pinned. This is pinned. This is pinned. This needs to defend this. Um, this needs to defend this because if it moves too far away, this is main one. So nothing can move. If you even move it to some other square where it's still defending this, it's still mate. If you move it to this square where it's still defending, it's still mate, but only because they have a pawn move. Um, so one last effort here by him to stalemate. Plays a4, hoping that I'm going to do something like this, right? Something like this. Uh, and then, yeah, that's stalemate, right? That's the end of the game. Um, but here I realized, I mean, I don't have to care about these. These are helping me right now. So I can just play e2 uh, and e1. And here, the prettiest way to finish this, which I did not find, is this, which is mate because this is pinned by this other queen. Uh, yeah, I did not find that in the moment. I went with the more pedestrian capture here, and this is mate. And he also offered a draw, I think, like here, which I don't know. I don't know. um, but yeah, just one of the most insane games that I've ever played. Really intense the whole way through, and just so many positional ideas going on here. Such a long struggle to try to convert clear positional dominance. I don't know where this first crazy, yeah, like this. This is crazy. And then of course, the ending position also just completely nuts. Yeah. And he was a very good sport about it for how stubbornly he defended this whole time. It was clear that he was upset, which was a bummer. It's the worst part about playing kids. When you play an adult, no matter what the result is, it's always fun after the fact to go in and analyze and look at what could have happened and what the ideas were. And it's always fun to look at like, oh, you were thinking about this. I That didn't even occur to me. I was thinking about this. Um, Kids, they're done with the game and they either are piecing out and they don't really care. They're off to play Pokemon, or they're really upset. And yeah, uh, but he was a great sport, and it's easy to be a good. It's easy to have good sportsmanship when you are not that upset about a game. It's difficult when you are, and I thought that was very impressive on his part. Um, yeah, so I ended up here with 5.5 out of 7, um, and played some really great games. So yeah, looking forward to doing this again. It's definitely it's a level of thoughtfulness and a level of yeah, just the aesthetic level of the games, and the strategic level is a lot higher than in online chess. Um, yeah, would recommend it.